Part 2. Okay, so we're looking at the Zion position of Exodus 20. And this is Exodus 20, verse 5. You shall not prostrate yourself to them nor worship them. That's a different matter than carving them. So one could say, well, it's okay to carve an image, just don't worship and prostrate them to them. No, wait a second. If I'm lining up my mind to the words, I might say, well, it's okay to carve it if you don't worship it. But I'm trying to align this with the 22 letters. And in the Vav position, which is a connector, it lines up with don't even make a carved image or any likeness or any likeness. Is that to say a painting or an embroidery? Is when it says a carved image or any likeness, does it mean a carved image or a carved likeness? You have to then say, well, how does language work? Which is the whole, can one verb action apply to two different nouns or one noun apply to two different verbs? And it's called syntax, grammatical structure that you learn in grammar school. So I have to think about these things. You shall not prostrate yourself to them. What does that got to do with a Zion? Nor worship them. Well, the thing about the letter Zion is it's not just a weapon, and it doesn't just mean to cut off, like the seventh day is cut off, but it also means to make it special. So the seventh day, the Sabbath day, was made special, different from others. Kadosh. Sacred. When you see a halo around the top of the head of somebody, typically they did that in the Middle Ages, say the Renaissance era of painting to say, oh, this is the holy man we're in reference to. This is one of the apostles, one of the disciples, one of the saints. This is the Christ figure. So it didn't mean anything other than identification. And sometimes what they did is not just put circles above everybody's head. Sometimes the circles were different colors, but sometimes the primary figure had a circle, and maybe the secondary figure had a square, and another one would have a triangle. It's like, I've never seen a halo of a triangle or a square. Some artists would do that, artistic license, just to say, oh, this is the primary, secondary, tertiary, just art, just graphics. So if an officer in the military or a policeman has a hat with this round, it's kind of like, I'm the guy with the halo. The letter Zion also means to be adorned with weapons. So if the cop has a gun, a badge, something on his hands go, whoa, gosh, what, a baton, and it's like, whoa, he's adorned with weapons. We better regard him. That's all Zion stuff. Worship, regard, prostrate. Oh, yes, whatever you say, sir. That's Zion stuff. But then it says, for I am Yahweh your Elohim. Well, that's kind of like the Aleph. It's a reiteration of the Aleph. He's identifying himself. But this position here has to be the letter Het. Well, what's the letter Het? If the letter Het, using now the Mishkan pattern, is the big white fence, it had 4 colors of embroidery. Blue, purple, red, threads, embroidery, white linen, and then some gold threads adorning it. So blue, purple, white, blue, purple, red, white. Blue, purple, red, white. He always uses those with gold, but there's 4 letters there, and there's 4 letters in his name, and this is where that come up with this idea. It was just like, well, wait a second. Yod, that's a strong hand, like the creator, and the sky is blue, and blue speaks of authority. A lot of cops wear blue. They wear other colors too, but black or green sometimes, or tan, but blue, somebody told me once a long time ago, blue speaks of authority. That's kind of like, I'm the creator, I made the rules, that's Yod. Purple, royal decrees, royalty, nobility, well, the Torah, Hay of Yod. Red, Adam, blood, well, the Messiah, Yod Hey Vav, the Vav man. Blue, purple, red. And he walked according to the Torah. That's robes of righteousness, white linen. So there's the white linen, blue, purple, red, threads with white linen. That's blue, purple, red, white. By golly, that's the name of Yahuwah, our Elohim, that he said, I am Yahweh, your Elohim, in color, not letters, not concepts, in color, blue, purple, red, white. That lines up with the het. So then I can say, if I associate that with the letter het, that proves that the one right before it, don't prostrate or worship them, would be the Zion, and right before that's got to be the Vav. So I can start looking this forward and backwards. Okay, so then if we're at this verse, at the het, there's another phrase, a jealous God. What did he say? He didn't say a jealous God. He said Al-Kona. Al-Kona, like Kona coffee, like Kona Hawaii. Kuf Nun Aleph means jealous, zealous, and fanatical. Well, he is now saying, if I got to wrap up my entire disposition with one word, because Aleph Lamed is translated as the word El or God. Elohim would be the plural or kind of a majestic or a fuller, but Aleph Lamed is simply God. Kona. He chooses the word Kona, Kuf Nun Aleph, as the one best word to describe him. That's it. That's kind of like the concept of the tat, a full basket. Boom, here it is. Yeah. Okay, the next phrase has to be the yod, and what he goes on to say, I am the one who visits the iniquity, the sin of fathers upon children. Visits the iniquity of fathers upon children to the third and fourth generation for my enemies. That two concepts are one. So if we look at this and say, look at the chart, look what's written, what I've written on the chart. Visiting the iniquity. Wham! There's the strong arm of the yod. Not just the hand of the creator, the artist, the potter. The strong hand. This is what I do. And when he says that Mishpat and Zadok are the foundation of his throne, it's justice and righteousness. Righteousness, Zadok, is also victory, deliverance, and salvation. The strong arm, Mishpat, the balancing of scales. What you do is going to be measured back to you, and my throne reign says, I'm the guy that makes sure that happens. Whatever you do to your neighbor, whatever you do to your kid, whatever you do to your wife, your parents, the way you think of your government, yeah, but they deserve it. What you determine to do, he's going to see to it comes around and right back on you. That's Mishpat. That's the strong hand, strong arms. That's his power is, my throne sits on Mishpat, and I see to it, he's not up there, I don't like that guy, throwing lightning bolts and what? I'm going to cause a flood over here, by golly, I don't appreciate it. He returns our way upon us. That's the way he rules. He said, when the Canaanites' iniquity was full to the brim, the land itself would vomit them out. It's the way this place works. And his ruling authority makes sure that happens. And he tells us, he says, not only is it going to happen, but if you betray me, yes, you will call the adversity to yourself, but I'm going to come on, you guys, and he's going to call in our enemies to wham, rush in with a secondary wave of effect. But he also said, if we walk in his ways and don't have other gods and don't talk about the other cultures, religions, he will ensure the blessing for us. Not only will it naturally happen, he will make sure it happens, because that's the Zadokah, Mishpat and Zadokah. That's how he reigns. So, see, the interesting thing about this is, hey, wait a minute, where's the 10 Commandments? Where's the laws? Those big bad things that he nailed to the cross because they were against us. These are all just describing who he is. He gives us his name. He says, if you don't have a regard or a remembrance of my name, you're going to fall out of the bus and get tumbled down the street while the bus moves on. Stay in here. No windows. Don't look at the other gods. Don't look at the other cultures. Don't look at the other words. and ceremonies. It's all right here. This is who I am. This is the way I operate. It's all about him. It's all about his identity. Every bit of these 10 commandments is not 10 big, bad, ugly laws. They're 10 matters whereby he expresses his own personal identity. Where his heart's at, where his head's at. How did he build the universe? It's all according to this. This is a treasure to comprehend it. And the fact that it's also correlated to the alphabetic letters is another great treasure of understanding. That we can sit there and say, these are his words, these are his letters, these are his concepts. What's the yod? Balancing of scales. Visiting the iniquity of those who hate me. And then there's this letter Kaf, the open hand, to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. It bounces back, and then again, then it bounces back. And then remember, we're supposed to give him hodu, praise, reverberating, echoing, resounding across the universe. And yet, evil is visited upon a family and a nation and a person 3 and 4 generations. That's the way it works. He's letting us know the way he's built this place. So the Kaf is line after line after, like ripple after ripple after ripple. It's not straight lines of, you could say straight lines of waves coming into a long beach, or you could look at circular ripples in a pond, like the menorah shape, rippling. If that's the Kaf, then the next phrase has to be the Lamed. So that would be, but who shows kindness for thousands of generations to those who love me. Actually, I think I have on here, those who hate me is the Lamed. That's this authority. And then the Mem is showing kindness. See, there's a break in the thought there. So Mem is taking it to heart. Mem is a womb. Ket Mem is warmth. Resh Mem is kindness and compassion. So again, it's like, well, where do you break between the Kaf and the Lamed and the Mem? It's just pondering and trying to fit the concepts. So if you know the Paleo-Hebrew concepts, it's just an exercise of alignment. Show kindness for thousands. Doesn't say generations. Here the generations is in quote. 3 and 4 generations of ripples to those who hate him, to those who don't want his authority, don't want his teaching, don't want his ways. There's the Lamed, because Lamed means teach, learn, authority, and walk in my ways. There's the shepherd's staff of the shape of the letter Lamed, but showing chesed, showing kindness. And then Nun would be that which jumps out of the Mem to thousands who love me. And observe my commands. Well, that's
Eric, I just want to.
What?
I just want to ask a question on that. Do you think he's saying to showing Hesed to thousands of generations or thousands of people? I've often wondered.
The phrase of generations is in bracket. Hang on a sec. I gotta close this door. Somebody's back to me. See, in King James, if they put the word in italics, it means somebody plugged that in and added it, because otherwise, we don't know why he said this. Here in Stone's Tanakh, they'll put it in brackets of generations. It doesn't say of generations. So it's thousands of generations or just thousands? Thousands of what? Well, the word thousand is aleph. So it says here, Lamed, aleph, Lamed, Pei, Yod, Mem, La Elephim. Showing mercy to oxen. That's what it says. Aleph is an ox. He's showing mercy to oxen. Well, aleph also means taught, trained, and domesticated. So is he saying, I will show mercy to thousands of those who learn my instructions? He was just talking about those who were his enemies, contrary to his authority, his house, his teachings, his ways. See, the more you ponder this, you start filling in these little things and contemplating it for yourself and going, well, where am I? Do I appreciate his instructions? Do I appreciate his house rules? Do I want to know them? Do I want to cooperate with him? Then he jumps into a whole other concept. So if the Psalmic is those who shamar my mitzvah, well, what's a Psalmic? Picture of the menorah, picture of a watchtower, a picture of a backbone with ribs, the mast of a ship, a basic tree shape. Guard my commands. Shamar my mitzvot. Mem Zadi Vav Tav. Hey, Mem Zadi Vav Tav, that's the same word as matzah. That's the same word as find out how to do something. That's the same word of Zadi Vav Vav Tav means to man the crew, join the colors. Join the colors, that's a phrase for joining the military. Join the colors, the blue, purple, red, and white. Join the blue, purple, red, white team. Become one of his. That's what it means. That's be the menorah, bear his fruit, do his stuff. Psalmic. And yet when you look at Daniel in the letter Psalmic, it says, but the wicked will do wickedly. And then in the ayin position, none of the wicked are even going to understand, because ayin means understanding. So what is Psalmic? The wicked doing wickedly and shamaring his mitzvot. That's where I get the idea of what is a Psalmic. By lining up passages of scripture to the alphabetic letter sequence, it reinforces the ideas if you align them properly. And if I had kicked this phrase to one of the other letters, I'd see it differently. So the reason, what I'm trying to explain, is seeing the alphabet as an index, a matrix, a grid that you overlay on top of a written narrative so that you can see things in that light of the meaning of that letter, just like that. But what that means is that the next phrase is going to line up with the ayin. And he says, hang on a second. You shall not take the name of Yahweh your Elohim in vain. What's that got to do with the ayin? Don't take the name of Yahweh in vain. What's vain mean? It's spelled Shin Vav Aleph. Here it's also Yod Shin Aleph. It's pronounced Shua. That's why, I forget his name, but the fellow from New Zealand who said, oh, you can't call his name Yeshua because Shua, Shin Vav Aleph, means empty, vain, worthless, nothing. And so if we call him Yeshua, we're saying that Yah's Messiah or Yah himself his name is nothing. Well, it's not Shin Vav Ayin. It's Shin Vav Aleph. Shin Vav Ayin is Yahusha. It's Hebrew. They got these weird guttural things. But the ayin is pronounced sometimes as an O or an E or an A or a U, or sometimes even this guttural like you're choking on something, a piece of matzah stuck in your throat. So what are we supposed to do? Do not Shua or Shin Vav Aleph. Don't Shin Tav. Don't Tav Shin Aleph. Pick up to carry the name of Yahweh your Elohim unto Lamed Shin Vav Aleph. Like nothing, vain. In other words, if you don't ever mention his name, you're bringing the Shin Vav Aleph. If you think, his name is worthless. A friend of mine was saying his aunt said a number of years ago, I never want to hear that name of Yahweh ever again. Never say it in my presence. She's bringing his name to nothing in terms of auditory sound. The name is certainly not nothing in her heart. It's reprehensible. What does it mean? Shin Aleph. Oh, look in the dictionary. Tav Shin Aleph, Yod Shin Aleph, Shin Vav Aleph, derivative spelling. It's all the same word. Lamed Shin Vav Aleph. Do your own research. Find out what that word means, because he said, if you do it, well, what's after the ayin? If he says don't do it, pay as a mouth. Open explanation. So now he's going to tell us what's going to happen if you do it. For Yahuwah, he's mentioning his own name, will not absolve anyone who lifts up his name unto Shin Vav Aleph, who Shin Alephs his name unto Shin Vav Aleph. He will not absolve. That means there's no forgiveness. Oh, except for the blood of Jesus on the cross. No, that's not what he said. What he said was, you pick up his name to vanity, or you consider it nothing, or you consider it worthless, or you consider it detestable, a matter of loathing. I don't want to hear those words. There's no absolution for you. You're going to bear the weight of your attitude, possibly for eternity. You better think twice before you disparage this name. Before you take on this name and says, oh, I'm one of his, but I hate his ways. Really? You hate his ways? What do you think his name is? His name is not just that guy who made this place, that guy who loves us with all his heart. The word Shem, or name, means fame, renown, reputation, and the occupation of all your concerns. The fact that these matters are important to him is his name, is his Shem. The 10 Devarim here are all his Shem. So to say, oh, they were nailed to the cross, they're detestable and abhorrent to us, it's the law sneaking up on you, which is what that guy said. That what, not in there 7, you'll see, Stu put up the meme, quoting right off the internet. Horrible things, the law sneaking up on you if you regard these 10 commandments. Let me give you a little warning. That's taking his Shem to Shin Vav Aleph, and you better repent while you can if you have any sense of what's good for you. If you're breathing, you still got a chance. There is no absolution for taking up his name in vain, because he's Al-Kona. He's zealous and jealous about these matters that he designed for himself, put them in the words, and handed us the words, and then gave us the ability to have understanding of it. Pay the mouth that opens, the eyeball that opens, the comprehension and understanding that opens, if we won't take his name in vain, if we won't make Elohim Akrim, if we won't carve idols and bow to them, if we won't distort his ways. That's the Vav. That's the connection to him by which we can hang out in his house, which is both the definition of Aleph and Bet, is to be taught, trained, and domesticated. Okay, so if that's the pay, now we're up to the letter Zadi. The Zadi is the letter, the word Zadik means righteous. Zadikah is righteousness. The letter Zadi represents the Ark of the Covenant in the Mishkan pattern, and it represents the resurrection of Yahusha from the dead. This is an outstanding and a special Kadosh letter. In fact, it's so Kadosh, this letter Zadi, it's not even included in the Greek alphabet. So therefore, it's not included in the Latin or the English. It's pronounced as I read it as a capital T lower Z. It's not S or TS, or it's tz, like a zitzi. In fact, that's the letter used for zitzi. And what's it say? Remember the Sabbath day to sanctify it. The letter Zadi. Boy, you see that, and all of a sudden this notion of what's the big deal about the Sabbath day? What's the big deal about the Ark of the Covenant? What's the big deal about Yeshua rising from the dead? What's the big deal about righteousness? What's the big deal about Aaron's rod that budded? What's the big deal about a fish hook? Well, if you're a fisherman, big deal is, hey, I got dinner. If you're a fish, it's like, I'm dead. Zadi, the weapon. It's a sprout of life. It's like the tree of life planted in the garden, separate, set apart, unlike any other. The Zadi's a big deal if you start thinking about what does Zadi mean. Remember the Sabbath day. Zadi is also one of the meanings, can be like a thorn, like a fish hook, that a bird that sticks in your head. Remember he said in Exodus 3 that the name Yahuwah was the Shem Zakar, and the word Zakar means masculine, but it also means a hook to grab and snag and pierce, like a barb in your clothing, or a hook in a fish's gill, or this day and his name stuck in your consciousness. Called Zadi. Well, what's the next letter in the alphabetic sequence? The letter Kuf, or letter Q. the circle with the line coming out of it, the circle and the 1, binary code digits, male and female. There's all these different pictures around, pillar of fire, billowing smoke. And he goes on to elaborate about the Sabbath day. 6 days shall you work and accomplish all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath unto Yahweh your Elohim. You shall not do any work. You, your son, your daughter, your slave, your maidservant, your animal, your convert within your gates. And then he goes on to describe, for in 6 days, so I have this all in the letter Kuf position on the chart indexing for 6, because it's like this overview of the way the whole thing works and why the Shabbat is so significant. In 6 days, Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that's in them, for he rested on the 7th day. Therefore, again, this view like up in the clouds looking down on the whole matter, he blessed the Sabbath day and made it kadosh, sanctified. Now, I could have said, why didn't I break up that whole phrase into a bunch of other little pieces? Because of the way it all works out. And the way it all works out is that the next letter, being the resh, lines up with the phrase, honor your mother and father. Well, resh is an honored man. If you want to be an honorable, exalted man, be about the task of giving your parents honor. That's reshness. So your days will be, well, that could be the next letter, but we're running out of room here. We're right near the end of the 10 Commandments. We're right near the end of the alphabet, so this got to still part of the resh. Honor your mother and father so that your days will be lengthened upon the land that Yahweh gives you. And there's other ways to read these things. The next one, now we're at the letter Sheen. And what we have here, what I put in here, remember, Sheen means teeth and fire, that which consumes. Teeth, like shiny, some sort of radiant splendor, provision. And he says, no kill, no commit adultery, no steal, no bear false witness against your fellow. Well, it's not what it says here. In the English, it says, thou shalt not. It doesn't say thou shalt not. It just says no kill, no adultery, no steal. I did a talk a few years back in Montana regarding the 10 Commandments, and looking at this a little closer, it's on the internet, on Archaeology, I believe. It says, if he says no kill, no steal, no commit adultery, is he saying that you shouldn't do it? Or is he saying it's not going to happen to you? Doesn't tell you. Maybe it's both. Maybe he says part of the perks and benefits of walking in his ways and knowing him and trusting in his refuge is to say he's not going to let this happen. Well, I know people that it's happened to, but I don't know what they were doing with their life. I just know they were friends of friends or parents of friends or children of friends. What does it mean this is not going to happen? I don't know. Were they walking in his ways? I don't know. All I know is what he said. He said no kill, and we've turned it into thou shalt not kill. Is that murder? Is that military? What is it? Is that judicial sentencing? Would he say, what's it mean? Why then should all 4 of these things be with the letter Sheen? It's how you get along with your neighbor. Don't kill, don't adultery, no kill, no adultery, no steal, no false witness. And then that sets up the last one in place of the letter Tav, no coveting your fellow's house, nor his wife, nor his manservant, his maidservant, his ox, his donkey, his car, anything belongs to his fellow, to your fellow. And that's the end of the matter. That's the end of the 10 Devarim. Coveting, as the last matter, sets up your heart to make you prone to break those previous 4, kill, adultery, steal, or false witness. Why would you dishonor your parents? Have different ideas, don't like the way they do things. You don't like the way they raised you as a child because you don't understand what benefit it did you. If we start going backwards and say, well, he's talking about 6 days you shall work, but that's concerning the Sabbath day. So the Kuf is in reference to the Sabbath day. And if we honor our parents, it's because Yahuwah told us to, he wants us to. That has to do with him. The Sabbath day has to do with him. And as I was pondering this, I was looking and saying, every single one of these commandments are about the same matter. Why did he say keep the Sabbath day because he built it. He invented it. He declared it to be kadosh. He told us to make it. He told us to make it. We'll see that verse if there's time to get to it. He says, so you will make the Sabbath day. Make the Sabbath day what? That's what he said. You will make the Sabbath day. In other words, how you treat the Yom Shabbat, the Sabbath day, is your call, your design. He just told you to do it. So to say, what does he want me to do? What can I do and what can't I do? He kind of left that up to the individual is what it looks like. Just don't work. Is it okay to, or should we not? That's up to you. Maybe you and your friends. It's a different matter. He said, make the day kadosh, sacred, set apart, different than the others. Why? Because by doing so, we automatically force our consciousness to align with the true Yod He Vav He. Well, let's back up. The Shabbat speaks of he who is the creator. Well, so does his name. So does not having any Elohim Akrim. So does not making any carved image. So does recognizing that he's Al Kodesh. So that recognizing that he says Ani or Anki Yahweh Eloheka. And you realize that this letter Zadi is a direct reference all the way back to the Aleph, I am Yahweh. The Bet, if you're my Elohim, then this Zadi is for you. And the promise of resurrection is also yours. The promise of the restoration of the Zadi resprouting, like Yeshua, like Yahusha coming out of the grave, is also Zadi, which is one of these 10 matters is identifying who he is and what he said and what is his relationship with us. So what part of that do you think he nailed to the cross and did away with? What part of that is detestable, is to be casually disregarded? It's his own personal self-disclosure, self-expression. Every one of these, every one of them. Just another little matter here. There's a couple of verses I want to read, but he didn't say seek visions, seek trips to heaven. Some people doing that all the time nowadays. Somebody sent a video and I looked at this thing. Some person's been going back and forth to the heavens on a routine basis for 20 years. I know I've heard from other people who do it, go up for the whole weekend, maybe stay weeks or a month. Many times, back and forth, and say, woohoo, it's Kingdom Age. This stuff is all happening now. Really? I can't say it's not. It's certainly happening. They can testify to it, but he didn't say to seek that. Didn't say to seek tongues or prophecies or healings or miracles. We could certainly ask him. He didn't say seek producing an abundance of fruit of the Spirit. What he said was seek me. And if you're walking in my ways, ask for the Spirit and you'll bear the fruit. Galatians 5:22 talks about that. When he says, oh, if you're not wise, ask him, ask for wisdom, and with all your wisdom, get understanding. What are we seeking? Are we seeking wisdom itself? Are we seeking understanding itself? Or are we seeking him? And hopefully the wisdom and understanding will illuminate him, will show us who he really is so that we're not deceived, so that we're not off the path. What benefit is wisdom or understanding if it leads us astray, if we don't know who he is, if it's not connected to his face? What's connected to his face? Interesting thing, you look at Hebrew and its face is Pei Nun Yod, Pene, or Pei Nun Yod Mem, written in the plural. Pei is a mouth that opens. Nun is something that jumps out, like a fish out of water, like a baby out of a womb. Well, what jumps out of your mouth? Tongue, your words. Out of the mouth, the heart speaks. Your words express your heart. That's the word translated face or presence or countenance. Praying the Aaronic benediction that he lifts up his countenance upon you, that he lifts up his countenance upon you. Here the word is presence. that you can be in his presence and he'll turn to regard you. That's one way of reading what that means. And yet he said, if we don't walk in his ways, if we don't listen to his voice, he has no regard of us. He can't regard us. We talked about that yesterday in this other video in Mount Air 7 with concerning the first epistle of John. So here's another interesting matter. Let me show a couple things here. Exodus 24, verse 9. This is after the 10 Commandments were given. Moshe, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel ascended up to Mount Sinai. They saw the God of Israel. They saw the God of Israel. And under his feet was the likeness of sapphire brickwork. And the sapphire brickwork, was like the essence of the heaven in purity. They saw the God of Israel. Yet John, is it chapter 3 or 4 of 1 John, says, no man at any time has seen Elohim. What is he contradicting this? What does it mean to see? That's the word fear, which was yirah. What does it mean? Here it says they saw him, and yet John says no man has ever seen him. What about seeing Yeshua's face? Is that seeing Elohim? Apparently not to John. Why is it so confusing? But this is the point I want to make. The likeness of sapphire brickwork. Hey, what's the word sapphire? Samik Pe Yod Resh. It's an interesting thing. If you look up the word Samik Pe Yod Resh, it means, oh yeah, here it is. Sapphire, lapis lazuli, that blue stone, may be transparent. But it also means countable. Countable, like numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Counting, numbering. The counting of the Omer, like the 49 days between the day after Shabbat and 50 days out, what they call Pentecost. But Sapphira, Samik Pe Yod Resh He, also means ball or sphere. Okay, that proves that the world is a sphere because he had it under his feet. It's not flat. Okay, we got that. Thank you. Spheroid, spirometer, spherometer, transparency. Oh, wait a minute. It also means writing and recording. Countability. Then if you look at Samik Pe Resh, taking out the yods and vavs, it means barber or hairdresser. Coiffure. Letter, document, book. To cut. Give something a shape. Narrate a story. Count, recount, to tell. Enumeration, census, border, frontier. Scribe, secretary, Sephirah, Samik Pe Resh Aleph. When they have that thing called the Sephirotic tree, the Kabbalists, it's 10 orbs in kind of a tree shape, and every orb is like this sphere that means something, and it's arranged in a certain way. It's got a certain shape, and it kind of tells a story. All that's a play on words for the word Sephir or Saphir. So when we read that they had a perception of exhibition, does it mean they saw him? Not according to John, but they perceived an exhibition of something, the likeness of sapphire brickwork. That's like paving stones. That's like mosaic tiles. What did they see? Did they see transparent blue glass tiles on the floor? It's just decoration, Architectural Digest. Hey, it should be in that magazine. Or is he telling us something? What's he telling us? Countable? Well, it's not necessarily about numbers, though the numbers are letters. Hence, you get into gematria and Kabbalistic stuff, numerology. But what is he saying? This is everything under my feet is fit together like a puzzle of words telling a story. A puzzle of letters. Same meaning. That if you can analyze it, like reading a mosaic, like reading the stars, it's a message written as a clue. That's what we're doing by doing this. There was another point that I was going to make in Deuteronomy 5, where he retells the 10 Commandments. He says, don't bear false witness against your neighbor. In Exodus 20, it's spelled Shin Kuf Resh, pronounced sucker. Like ripping off your neighbor with lies, distortions, untruth to take advantage of him being a sucker. But in Deuteronomy 5, the word is Shin Vav Aleph. Hey, that's the same word about lifting up his name into vanity. Don't have an ayin dalet of Shin Vav Aleph regarding your neighbor. Well, is that bearing false witness against your neighbor? Or is that deceiving your neighbor? Or is that thinking that your neighbor is just a worthless jerk, an idiot, a fool? What do these things mean? I'll mention one other matter here, then open it up to you guys for whatever you want to say regarding this subject, or any other questions or anything. A few days ago, March 25th, it was disclosed by a group called Association of Biblical Research, I believe ABR, in Israel, that they found an artifact, the oldest artifact with ancient Hebrew writing ever located. It was at Mount Ebal. And in Deuteronomy, I think it's 11, and also in Joshua chapter 5, they went to Mount Ebal and Gerizim, and at Ebal they expressed the curse on anybody who wouldn't continue in the ways of Yahuwah, teaching your children, walking in his ways, taking them to heart, because his ways are his name, his Shem, his identity, his disposition. And we as his people of his colors need to be of the same heart, the same mind. And somebody was digging around in the rubble that had been looked at many years ago. It has been here since approximately 1500 BC, 3,500 years. And they found a little scrap of lead about the size of say you have a piece of chewing gum in one of those little foil wrappers and you fold it up. It's about a ½ inch square. They opened it up and it was 2 centimeters square, about 1.5 inches square. And I guess they must have thought that something might have been written on that. So they have a special computer that can make like 1,000 passes of looking at just micro indentation. And they found out that there was 40 words written on it. And this is what the words say. And they showed the name Yahu, not Yahuwah, 3 letters, Yod, He, Vav, written in an ancient paleo format. It's not the same letter shapes I use, but it's certainly the strong arm of the Yod, the man going hey, and the thing that looks like a nail for the Vav. But this is what it says. Cursed, cursed, cursed. Cursed by El Yahu. You will die cursed. Cursed, you will surely die. Cursed, cursed, cursed. That's what they found. And they're saying this is the oldest piece of Semitic writing ever on the face of the earth found. Proving that in the days of Joshua, whoever wrote this had, you might say, means and access and comprehension and an ability to write with understanding the whole Hebrew alphabet, which would then enable them to have written the whole Torah. And this was hundreds of years, 500 years before what they said was, oh, the people in Byblos, Lebanon, are the ones that invented the Semitic language. It's just not true. Well, Moshe, if you look in Exodus 24, it says Moshe wrote all the words of Yahweh in verse 4. But if you go to Exodus 17:14, Moshe wrote. He was told to write. So when was the language invented? Approximately at least 1600. Did Abraham have access to it? According to the book of Jubilees, yes. Did Enoch? It's just never been found. This is the oldest one found. But why was it the curse? It's almost like Yahuwah is reminding us, yeah, I'm giving you back my name. Yeah, I'm giving you back my ways. Yeah, I'm giving you back the covenant. You want to walk in my ways? You want to know who I am? I'm Elkanah. And that curse is just as vital now as it ever was. And if you betray this, you're going to be in deep trouble, just like those guys were. There was another verse that talked about that I was going to mention, and I don't see it. So I'm going to open it up to you guys. at this point and go from there. One other thing I want to mention about the significance of the Sabbath day, because it looks like the entire Ten Commandments is built around regard to Yom HaShabbat. If you go to Exodus 31, see, he gave us the Ten Commandments in Exodus 20. Then he talks about building the Mishkan and all these other things. And then he concludes the conversation in Exodus 31. Yahuwah just designated Bezalel and Aholiab, told him how to do the incense and all this other stuff. And then in verse 12, he says, Yahweh spoke to Moshe saying, now you speak to the children of Israel saying, you must observe my Sabbaths, for it is a sign between me and you for your generations, to know that I am Yahweh, who makes you kadosh. You shall observe the Shabbat, for it's kadosh to you. It all depends on how you explain these words. It makes you kadosh. It's for you. It's unto you. It brings you into the status of kadoshness. Its desecrators shall be put to death. Now, is this Yahweh telling Moshe, anybody in your company, in your nation who desecrates the Sabbath, you kill him? Or is he also maybe saying, they're not my people. They don't keep this day. They have no regard of my ways, my identity. Mot lemot, surely die. For whoever does work on it, that soul shall be cut off from among its people. And he goes on to elaborate, like the Kuf position earlier, for 6 days work may be done, but the seventh day is a day of complete rest. It's kadosh la Yahweh, sacred to Yahweh. Whoever does work on the Sabbath day shall be put to death. Verse 16, Exodus 31, the children of Israel they must, shamar, observe the Sabbath, to make the Sabbath an eternal covenant for their generations between me and the children of Israel. It's a sign forever. And then he goes on to explain it again, that in a 6-day period, see, it's not just some law. It's his identity as the creator. That in a 6-day period, Yahuwah made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day, he rested and was refreshed. So because he was refreshed, he says, this is a built-in program, built into the universe. You rest on this day, you're refreshed. When he finished speaking to him on Mount Sinai, he gave Moshe the 2 tablets of testimony. Testimony. His identity, Ayin Dalet. His DNA, his mind, his heart, his being. For us to regard these matters is to distinguish him from any other option of Elohim or philosophy or construct or ideology or ceremony, or it's the him of him. Stone tablets inscribed by the finger of Elohim. And the interesting thing, and I'll end with this, is that the word finger is Aleph Zadi Bet Ayin. And if you look in the dictionary for Aleph Zadi Bet Ayin, not only does it mean finger or digit or toe, but it means color, paint, and dye. His fingers are colors? 10 different colors? I thought we had 3 primary colors. What are those other colors? Secondary? What I'm saying is that that's one reason for writing his words in colors. That's one reason for, on the chart, different colors are aligned with the letters, is because of this word. Stone tablets inscribed by the colors of Elohim, the finger of Elohim. And the Sabbath day is not just a sign, like a wedding ring, as it were. It's how we know we've got the right guy. How do you know you have the right Messiah? Because he's right there in line with this whole thing. How do you know you're Israel? Because you're right there in line with the whole thing. Mind and heart and action and belief. Keeping it yashar, straight, authentic, valid, confirmed. Yashar, ashar. It's a really big deal. It will make you wealthy and wise to regard his matters as true, which means that any doctrine or teaching contrary is false, a lie, wayward, divergent, by definition, satanic. Any educated man, whether of secular or ecclesiastical, academic, who supposedly knows the truth and perpetuates the notion that these words don't exist any longer, are liars. And the Apostle John told us that if we don't walk in his ways, and we think we're saved, we think we're going to heaven, we think we're his people, then we're liars. We're deluded. We're insane. We have no clue. We haven't even started the walk yet. Unless we can recognize who's the guy that we're walking after. And to think that Yahuwah took all these things away so that we don't have to is a false teaching, a lie. He made these things accessible, the door, so that we can come back to the house of the Father and walk in his ways and be pleasing to his heart. The truth. This isn't a matter of hating anybody or talking bad words about anybody else. It's a matter of the truth. There you go, Kurt. You're on. What's up?
Oh, I just wanted to close out in prayer because I'm kind of out of time.
Oh, we are?
And
I
then,
don't see a time clock. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I know you're doing the best you can. But no, I just want to thank everybody for being here. I'll just close out in prayer, and then we can do the after show and people can ask away. Father, thank you for this message. Thank you for being our Elohim. Thank you for reminding us that the curse is in front of us still. Even though it ended in 2010, we can choose the curse or we can choose the blessing. Father, I choose the blessing. I know everybody on this call who joins us every week chooses the blessing. We don't want the curse. Father, it's the only way you're going to protect us in this time, in this day, in this age, as the enemies rise against us. We don't care about them because we have you. We're inside your head. Father, just wake up Israel, everybody out there. Let this message go forward. Let them hear. People who don't want your Shabbat, they don't know what they're missing. They don't know what they're missing. They literally don't know what it feels like to rest in you. Literally every week. It's my favorite day of the week. I think everybody here would testify to the same thing. Thank you for the blessing of this word and sealing the word until the time of the end and unsealing it so that we can hear it. In whose name I pray. Amen.
And one last word. It's time to wake up now.